Greetings, I'm Kevin Chaos. This is drawing. I had someone request how to open their third eye properly, which seems like way too much information to just flick on like a switch. However, I figured I'd do my best to go through some basic chakra knowledge, help illuminate it for her as a Christian, and show some symbols and things that have changed to hopefully get a good idea about it. Here's my little dude I drew so we can keep along with the video. And this is the fucking crown chakra. Yeah, look at that pimp crown. Alright. You see the heart there? That's the heart center. Now let's check this out. Over here, I started a little bit because I'm not the world's greatest artist as far as drawing goes. Okay. Here are the chakras when counting from the bottom up. We'll get into that number right there a little bit later, if I remember. Now, there wasn't the most perfect direction that I could help this person with after sending me her paragraph, but I'm going to do my best off of just general knowledge, help this person find her own answers. See some interesting symbols here. All this is the same. All that's the same. And we'll get to that. Starting with basic understandings of these 7 lessons. And now in Christianity you hear repeated over and over. They don't use words like chakra. They don't use that. Okay. But what they do talk about are the 7 lamps. The 7 seals. You know, there's a lot of that in there. I dyslexic that right up. Now, a fire, this is the best way to put this. A fire in and of itself, the fire in our belly, let's check this out. 1. Ignore that looks like a penis, that was not a really good idea. 2, 3, let's make a little belly button here, whatever. 4, 5, right here you see this? Remember that little Hindu dot deal? 6, and the crown at 7. I don't even usually draw 7s like that, but I wanted it to stand out. That is looking chill. I really don't like that one. Let me fix that. 1. Okay, that's much better. At least now it doesn't look like a penis. Alright, so 1 is the root. I kind of really like my drawing here. Because for me, that's pretty good. I just like his face. What are we talking about? The chakras? Alright, the root is also known as, actually I'm not going to get into the Sanskrit. So the root is basically survival. Okay, it's the most primitive behavior there is, you know, lacking cognitive functioning, you know, the lower or animal brain as we've grown to call it, fight or flight responses, strongest and fittest survive, you know, it's our basic component. Here's stuff like from the chaos, all strung, you know, okay, that's the chaos, just kidding, that's the root chakra. Now, the root chakra as a physical location is the perineal. Yep, just like plants. And the perineal is the spot between your genital area and your anal opening. The taint, the frondel, I hate all these new words, but the technical name is the perineal. Its color is red. Okay, I won't get into all sounds and too deep meditation things. This will serve now. The word chakra means spinning wheel. Spinning wheel. So, root, survival. Let's consider these stages of evolution towards, as some religions call it, look at that halo, Godhead. Now, in ancient times, due to our diet and lack of proper nutrition and balance, because only fasting drives this type of demon up. Well, in ancient times, you had to actually fucking hunt for food or travel for food. Didn't always get every nutrient. This allows different parts of your brain to be over or underused. In a similar contrast, nowadays we ingest a lot of poisons we wouldn't have ingested back then. Sometimes for flavor, other times for ignorance. Now, very enlightened spiritual people would be seen with a golden aura. You know, people who are really up there as far as their understanding and attainment. I'm not talking God, we don't need to get into those kind of things. But as far as people who knew what they were talking about, that's how they would be seen to those who could see. They would see this almost like a golden disc emanating from their head. It wasn't some cartoon like fucking halo floating above. That crazy shit was added later. It was emanating from them as if they were the light themselves because they carried the light with them. And they allowed... This is the Sushumna, the spinal column, okay? The center meridian, so to speak. Okay, there are 33 vertebrae in the spine. There are 33 degrees in Freemasonry. 33 steps on the back of a dollar. 33 hertz in the King's Chamber. Okay? This is an interesting number. So the ancients and men knew this, and towards most people tried to obscure the knowledge. But I won't digress too much. Now, so that's the crown chakra. Survival. 2. This is the sacral. Okay? The sacral is responsible for sexuality. Clearly, under or over indulging in that causes imbalances, like guilt. You know, desire is the sin of overindulging in the sacral chakra. Solar plexus. Okay? That's the top of your stomach, essentially. Okay, solar plexus comes from the Latin sol, which means sun, as in S-U-N. Okay? The solar plexus holds our personality, our ego, right? Generally, this version of us that we understand as us, human, what we identify with, the person, the me versus the I, if you're familiar with those terms. The solar plexus is sin. Well, you could spin a couple there, but ego. My friend calls it the ego chakra. Too much belief in yourself. You're taught in vampirism and magics, the more negative arts, at least negative in how a lot of people apply it, that this is the main power center. I wonder why. Your soul, right? This is the main power center, and that's what you would be feeding on. That the subnavel is or sacral is pretty much the reserves. Now the 4th chakra is the heart chakra. Okay, you hear, as above, so below. You see this symbol or that symbol, just to even further pervert it, in my opinion. But you could look at it still positive if you want. That's the same symbol. That's the divide, though, man. So as above, so below. Now, what if that was here? Now you see where that heartogram comes from, by the way. Okay? So it's pointing in both directions. It's not below, and it's not above. It lacks a gender. It connects the above and below. In fact, you can choose to see this great divide. Interesting terms we have here. Okay? As hell. Heaven. At least as far as our bodies and connectivity are concerned. Okay, what do these things stand for? Let's go back and look at these lower-like things again. Ego, personality, me. By the way, root. Okay, survival. Which the sin, by the way, is anger. Like Tech 9 and his red coloring. Sacral, right? Desire. Solar plexus, ego. Okay, those seem like primitive notions that we can get past to a degree. Okay, so all these things, and they don't have to be bad. You don't have to overindulge in any of these things. You don't have to underindulge too much either. But balance is almost a lifelong thing, isn't it? Okay, but up here, we have the throat. And you hear Jesus say that the throat is an extension of the heart. This is just to follow along. I'm not making the perfect presentation, but I know my message is being received. Okay? That the throat to be careful of what you speak, because the throat is an extension of the heart. Oops. And if the heart is connecting these, then that means that the throat, when you're using this, speaking things into existence, that you're using all of this. Sometimes just portions, sometimes all lit up. Depends on you. And that means that all of these things that might be imbalanced get to spill out into the world. And if you're not thinking that through, if you don't have awareness, you're changing things and don't even know what you're changing. You're creating change in the world, and you're not even paying attention to the cause and effect of that. But if you balance speaking and listening, I'm not going to draw ears on them, but you already know that this throat is an extension. You already know that your words shape existence, because it shapes all of these other things that were former to the attainment of this. These should serve as understandings. 7 churches, 7 lamps, 7 seals. And they can't just be flicked on and off like a light switch. People keep saying, how do I do this? I mean, you can force it, but you trust me, you aren't going to want to force it. You're going to want to learn to do all of these things naturally. You force it, you're going to have a lot of problems likely. So, the third eye, the ajna, in fact, in reptiles, it's been found to have a cornea and a lens, literally the start of a formation of an eye. It's still shaped like an eye in our brains. If you were to follow that little dot right there, if you were to go straight in, by the way, I've had a horrible haircut, but I'll explain that in some other time, or you can look at my videos. It would go to the center of your brain, to what's called the pineal gland. Some people say pineal. I disagree with that pronunciation. Okay, and the pineal gland is awareness. Watchers. Okay, now you can observe. That's another one. Observer. Okay, you can observe, become aware, be a part of all this. Is the most peaceful experience there is. Okay, Jesus had mastered the eye. You'll even hear Satanists throw around and say that that's all he was. Yet, if they had mastered the eye themselves, all that shit wouldn't be a problem for them. The anger, sex, it's overindulging in these things, man. Even if you overdid it, like overscrewing and getting fatigued, you should still be learning from your past. So, it's kind of comical to me. I don't really like the divide of any religions, and I personally believe that the source of all creation visited everyone, and everybody put their own creative spin on it and had to try to control the way that it went. I'll go into that and what I think, and how the Big Bang did also happen as well, and how both can be correct some other time. Hopefully I'll remember to come back to that. Okay, so awareness. Now, you can be aware and not act. In fact, you're probably more aware if you're not acting. So you can think of this as a sort of, look at this. These are very heaven-like qualities. Speaking things into existence, balancing out, seeing versus needing to be personally involved in creating some action that you're going to be responsible for, or now that you're aware, needing to be responsible for others. Now, remember what the Bible says. If you're a prophet, if you receive visions or understandings that not everybody is, a part of, not everybody is really catching on to, it's your job. Say a person is going to die of a stroke, or whatever, after eating a big-ass cheeseburger. It's your job to tell that person. Why? Because you're aware. He's not. If he was aware, he probably wouldn't eat that cheeseburger. So it's your job to tell that person about it, and they can do what they want. You're not there to argue with them, but you're there to give them the information, continue moving. Okay? That's kind of how awareness is. It's almost being of the spirit itself. Floating by, being part of everything, not getting stagnant. Now, the crown. Bing! Okay, the crown chakra, its sound is or silence, as in the word thing. Okay? Now, I like to say that its sound is knowing. Okay? Or understanding. There's no question. There's no argument. It doesn't need to be in the form of words. Words are the devil's tool. I mean, metaphorically or literally, don't even matter. But I say metaphorically. Words are the devil's tool because they control what is. It's not appreciation of anything. Even Einstein, interestingly enough, didn't speak for the many of his first years in life, and when they finally asked him, they said, "Why didn't you talk?" He said, "I never saw a need to." You see, he didn't have to. I mean, the baby's first response from birth is cry, get what I want, manipulate. So words exist to manipulate, to bend your surroundings. Interestingly enough, the Bible describes Lucifer as the prince of the air. So you can look at modern things, radio, television, and all these poisons that are being drilled into your subconscious, which is the sum of what you are. No wonder you're having problems, you know. We are the sum of the many stories we tell ourselves, and what we do on a daily basis defines us. So you can look at it like that. But if you're knowing, okay, you don't need necessarily the words. You have trust, you have faith, you actually have understanding. It takes much longer to convert that into a way that humans understand into words, and you can't do it. But obviously everybody would have got it first off the bat if it was just regular language. And language has been deliberately deviated from to keep only certain people understanding, like the 7 sounds of creation and destruction and other things ripped from the Bible but still referenced, you know. There were 7 sounds in creation, 7 sounds. And you're going to continue to see that, which means basically that through your breath, through simply breathing, you don't have to actually say or make the noise either. It's the way that you breathe. You're going to find that you'll feel your organs caressed or shifted in certain ways, that it actually plays on each part of those things. And just like these are spinning wheels, these connect you in a metaphysical sense to the outside world. It also connected to the inside world and organs, you know, like the genitals, etc., you know, the kidneys. So that's unfortunately, as basic and simple as I can put it. Now let's look at some of these things I put on the side here, okay? This is a DNA strand, very terrible one. There, now it's a DNA strand, I guess. There's the Jesus fish. There's a DNA strand, okay? There's a Jesus fish. Let's flip that back right again. Oops. Never realized that drawing like that was difficult. Okay? And it's still the same thing. It's called a yoni. In some places they look at it as a symbol for vagina. And sexuality is very important because sex is, at least semen, life force, eggs. Okay? This is the God stuff, man. This is the stuff, the seed of which, babies come from. Everything they ever need is right inside of that. And here we are overindulging in desire, overindulging in ego and our alleged needs, overindulging in survival sometimes, and we're wasting it. So imagine this. I'm going to draw a penis anyway. Check this out. Oh no, it's the world's worst penis. Okay, so as someone masturbates, I'm using the male appendage because it would be way easier to draw anyway. Okay, someone masturbates, they're expelling this godlike energy from their body. Okay, it's leaving them without a purpose, without an intent, most of the time, other than to continue to feel and do the same silly stuff. So, when you hear about premarital sex being a sin, it's less about the marriage, which is a very important part, union. Okay? And more about wasting that essence and instead having it actually mean something. But not only that, you see, in the union between a proper male and female, and I'm not saying that your recreational purposes or gay sex is a sin because I'm not stirring that pot. But what I will say is on an energetic level, you're missing out on what refills you. Okay? Here's a cup. Or a fucking mug. Okay? A little bit of frothy beer, not really. Okay? Now, that's our life force, that frothy beer. Okay? As we drink or piss away, that life force, as we spend it, okay? We're refilled by the partner. Okay? This is the symbol for male. A phallic symbol, a sword. Okay? This is the symbol for female. The sword stabbed into the uterus. We complete each other, people. We give each other a core component that the other lacks, choosing, as well as genetics, to live dominantly in the left or the right hemisphere. And I'll go into that in other videos, but we exhibit obvious different traits, and some of us are more feminine than masculine, and vice versa, even in the opposite. But that doesn't mean born into the wrong body. It's chemistry. You can choose to argue that and hate on me if you will, but we're here for understanding. So if hate's what you bring, you're going to get nowhere fast. Alright. But you'll notice, I mean, a male versus a male, if a male spins out this type of energy and is supposed to get another kind of energy in return, like fire and water together make steam. But if you give this person fire and they give you back fire, you just have fire. It's no wonder you're clashing. You relate and you understand each other very well because you share similar, what I call people parts. But ultimately, a people part that you need very much so is that feminine aspect, you know, that awareness, that feelings that we want to try to ignore as we fit into society and become this label called men. But all that is societal structures, you know. It wasn't always a thing that we had to be this or that to be called that. And now we have a lot of activists and talktivists creating huge scenes, but the simple understanding is we need both. Even not dating, we need to represent both of those qualities, just like both the above and below go hand in hand to create an entire human being, and how they use that, like politics, becomes good or evil. Man, that looks pretty cool. So someone had asked me how to open the third eye. I asked that once myself, and I said, how do I use my third eye? And someone said, just look. And I was mad, dude. I was mad. What do you mean, just look? If it was that easy, I would have figured it out. But see, that was part of the trick. I mean, it's honest, so it's not a trick. The trick is how to understand what he said. Okay, just look. The thing is, it's about faith. We're spending so much time over questioning everything that we're making self-imposing limitations on ourselves, on what's possible. We're making it to where, like, ghosts and goblins don't exist, that they disappear from our world as far as us perceiving them, not as far as them existing in essence. We just lost the desire or understanding to contain it. Because our minds, from a young age, were taught, oh, don't pay any mind to that. I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. You're taught that, you know, that doesn't exist. It didn't make electricity disappear just because people didn't believe in it. Everybody who knew what they were talking about was crazy in the beginning. And met with ridicule and hate, and eventually come down to. But if you want to open the third eye, my advice to you is do it naturally. Work your way up, meditate with each thing. And here's another fun one for you. If you want to give these colors, they're only slightly off on the top one. Okay, I got taught this in grade school. It wasn't about the chakras. It's about a rainbow. And they told me Roy G. Biv invented the rainbow. And I guess it was a parable to help me remember, because there's no way that's true. Roy G. Biv. So we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The heart center, green. Weed, trees, earth, green. Okay? Okay, we have, I kind of got distracted here. I'm a little bit tired, but I really wanted to help this person, and I didn't know where to begin, so I'm trying. Wow. I'm really spacing a second. Oh, red, orange, green, yellow, right. Roy G. Biv. So the colors. Now, you don't really have to have this system. Now, it is very close to the actual frequencies, okay? Because everything that you see, everything that it is a frequency. It's like light, sound, it's all a wave. It's all the sense of the wave. We feel the sense of the wave against our skin. We call that feeling. You know, we hear the sense of the wave as it vibrates against our ears. We call that hearing. You know, etc., etc., etc. I meant to say touch anyway. You know, that's essentially what exists. Now, everything's a frequency of light. You know, that obviously I have given you dominion over the birds of the air and the fish of the sea and the animals of land. Obviously, these are much higher, quite literally and figuratively, vibrations. Higher vibrations and more dense, solid vibrations than the loose vibrations and shiftable, malleable, like anger and desire and emotion. As we climb the ladder, as we ascend, as Buddhahead, Godhead, as some would call it, Christ consciousness, people have even been known to call it. So my advice to you would be to simply to meditate on each one of those points between your nuts and your anus, or your vaginal opening in your anus, on the perineal gland. To recap, it's gonna be hot, like a warm little ball right there. I want you to simply just focus on that and breathe. I've even read exercises to where they say to, I don't know how to really say this in politically correct terms, but to taut your anus, to clench and unclench, like to clench, hold it for a second and allow it to relax and slowly unclench. What this will do, it really does help you visualize better. It's called tactile, I think, imagery. By touching something first, it makes it really easier to think about that area. So by clenching and allowing it to open, almost like a flower, right? You hear a lot of those expressions. And we'll also go into the geometry, sacred geometry, sacred geo, some other time. But if you do that, you'll notice you'll be able to feel that part of the skin that's really close to it. So as you clench and unclench, you'll feel that part right there, and it'll give you an idea where it is. And then in your mind's eye, or your inner feeling and inner sight, so to speak, you'll be able to focus on it much more easily. The same as if you took your finger and just that to where your third eye would be if you followed it straight back, because then you already remember where that finger is. You might feel a warmth or pressure even moments after it's gone, and that's going to help you focus on that part. You sit, you breathe, you focus on what it means to you, or on what you were told it means. And even if you weren't told, you'd slowly be able to associate these things, because there is a real science to it. If you actually open your mind to allow yourself to receive that too, of course. For those who knock, the door will be open to them. You don't knock, you don't want to know, you want to be in your limited way of existence, that's okay. Nobody's here to judge you. But it doesn't mean that just because you haven't opened your mind to the possibility, it's just like the law of attraction. It is a very real law. The world shapes itself around us to a great degree, depending on the observer's thoughts. Be sure to look into 6-minute video on YouTube. Chop that a much longer documentary. Dr. Quantum, double slit experiment. Whatever. I'm getting tired of writing. And double slit experiment. And that'll show you even dumbed down, not to offend any of you in saying that, but meaning easy to understand, cartoon version of an actual experiment that took place that'll help you understand how your thoughts 100% genuinely shift reality to conform somewhat to your nature. And that's why faith is important. But where do we place faith? We place faith on that air, don't we? On the TV and on all of those things that exist in our subconscious thoughts. That's why church and these kind of things are important. It doesn't have to be church. You don't have to be with Christ. But what you do have to do is you have to put into your mind good stuff to mix in with the crap. Okay? Because the crap is what's overwhelming your consciousness, what's creating doubt and doom and impossibilities, because more of your thoughts exist of this crap than it does of the good stuff. So you have to do positive affirmations and prayers and these sorts of things. You're basically overriding the programming. They're actually called television programs. You should see Tesla's patent for the TV. Really, go read it. You can actually find a free app on the Play Store called Tesla's Patents. Okay? And it will show you actually how it was all from the very beginning designed to manipulate you, your subconscious, with sneaky little subliminal messages and flashes of light and the right frequency. There's those words again. Don't be afraid of them. If you're already a Christian, you can use the spirit of discernment. Go talk to your God. You know I ain't bullshit. And I tell everybody that. Even the most biggest arguers eventually come around to tell me, oh man, I really wish I could have listened. And you're right. I just needed to hear it in my own words. Yes, of course you did. Your own preconceptions. You don't have an open crown and third eye. You're not aware. What you're doing instead is sticking back and indulging in familiar stuff, because that's what humans feel comfortable with, what's familiar. Unknown, even happiness and peace, is terrifying. It's no wonder demons are as they are, yeah? So, you need to add into your world more positivity, more good things to think about, more yes I can, Or using the God language, like the root, survival. You know what the powerful affirmation is for the root? I am. That's right. You can say Eom if you want, but Eom would probably, I'd relate that to the heart, and I'll explain some other time. Now, I am, I am. Now, the important and magnificent part of this expression is, like you're taught that Jesus died on the cross thousands of years ago to already pay for, as hard as that might be to understand, what you have, you know, that means that it already is. That every possible reality, just like we're understanding on a physics level now, that we're shifting dominant realities towards us, that we're making a better or worse place depending on our projections. You know, that's ultimately what's happening. So when you're saying I am, you're saying it is. When you say so mote it be, you're saying so may it be. Some people just say so it is. You'll find a lot of pagans practice in that way. And you'll hear people ending in amen, which was adopted later anyway, but as a dismissal saying it's done. And when you do your prayers or your spells or your meditations, you're supposed to just let go. Allow it to leave your body. Allow it to go do its job. It is now in the form of energy. But what happens if you take it back? You know, you focus on it again. That's just like grabbing it and holding on to it again. How's it going to work? You have to trust that God will do its job. And you can think of God, for those of you more atheists, like as the motivational force that carries it out when you let go of it consciously and allow it to play. So, positive affirmations. Now, the third eye, once you get around to that level, okay, its color most resembles, like the color of the acacia, of knowledge, of very close to a black light. Okay, very close to a black light's color, very soft, lightish purple. Some people will tell you use white and gold for these top two, and those are the purest of colors, because as all colors combine, they turn into that white, which you'll also notice through meditation in a scientific sense called phosphine imagery, if I'm not mistaken. Now, phosphine imagery means literally your neurons and stuff are so active in your brain that you're actually seeing the light through your brain. Yeah, it's amazing how much of this is making sense, right? Okay, so forget words like chakra. These things are poisonous, man. I mean, in the aspect that everybody wants to sell spirituality, but I ain't made a dime yet. You know, I've spent a lot of my money and time and life not trying to get a gain, but simply having others to hopefully get to where I am and be able to have what I have. But if you want to get to that third eye, you're going to want to try to eliminate as many of these other things as you can. But even if you haven't mastered it, the third eye is going to help you. So a lot of people teach that as the first one. You hear yoga people having you meditate like this, you know, which you don't want to do all the time, really, because it imbalances elements in your body. Each one of these, just like you hear this. He said, "I placed a sword at the garden that would turn in all directions." Okay, north, east, south, and west. Fire, air, earth, and water. Some of the pagan knowledge is loosely based on the same stuff, and vice versa. Everybody's actually speaking the same stuff. They just slowly wanted to take control and put it only into their end of the spectrum, stop other people from being able to do what they can do, and hopefully rule this planet. And yeah, so, but you'll find it's a lot of the same things. So if you pinch a nerve and allow energy to circulate in your body that way, because essentially that's what you're doing, you know, you're going to increase or decrease an element in your body. You hear right hand's giving, the right hand to God, left hand's taking, right, the left hand path. Although if you're left-handed, it's going to be inverted. And of course, if you're experienced, you can invert your energy from side to side, just like shifting polarity in a battery or something like that. So it's important to know of how everything kind of goes together here. Now, if you really want to do this and kind of speed this along, I'll give you an exercise a Reiki master gave me and some of my beginning journeys. Now, I had a lot of knowledge, and I came into this life with a very specific purpose that's not worth going into in this video. However, you can't carry all of the crown, the wordless wisdom, the infinite with you into the flesh. You can only kind of tap into it. And I can literally find any known knowledge just by meditating. Anything I want in the whole fucking world. So, to do this exercise easily, he told me, remember what I said about the sun and the moon? Where I said the moon, I believe I said this, it might have been in a message to somebody a moment ago. So the third eye is essentially the moon. Intuitive, just like you'll, wow, I cannot spell. Need to get more sleep. Okay, intuitive moon, man. You even see pagans sometimes in crones and stuff with that little crescent moon on their head. Okay, and you hear the soul, which is what again? Latin for sun, solar plexus. So that means the sun right there, right? And the moon right there, okay? And now if the moon represents awareness and the sun represents ego, personality, stuff like that. The sun is the master power center of here. Okay? Here's a big upside down cross. Okay, just to show you that. Here's a big upside up cross. Comes across the throat and also the wings or shoulder chakra. Okay? You know, if you even look at the body, there's the shoulders coming in, there's the neck coming in. Hey, you know, you start to really see some patterns, man. Where was I? Because I have to try to keep an eye on where this camera's actually pointed, knowing that it zooms in way too much for some reason, and that I don't have a whole lot of space in here right now. But okay, so, oh yeah, right. So he told me, move the sun up into the moon. Now I've done a lot of meditations, traveling energy throughout my body and different things like that. But that was one of the most best meditations I'd ever done. It gave me and I even was in jail at the time being challenged with some real stuff, man. But, I mean, everybody's anger around you at all times, and you could get yourself into trouble. But when I did this exercise, it brought all this ego, all of this crap into my awareness, as if to fact check it first. And all I did was, as I breathed and my breath rise and fold, I imagined, and well, you don't even really have to imagine because you can feel it really. But I'm breathing up into the eye, back down, almost like it's a big rotation along the spine, but traveling along that point. Okay? We're making the sun and the moon one. Left and the right one. Up and down one. And coming into balance instead and hopefully noticing things. Hopefully being able to perceive. Hopefully being able to watch a little more versus control a little more. That we might actually understand what's going on and use these responsibly. Third eye is purple. Meditate in silence, preferably for that. Or Om. Now it's not Om. This will be where I end here. Now, I've tried to pervert this knowledge for a long time. Om. Sounds a lot like an O when you stretch that, don't it? Okay? Now, a lot of spiritual artworks will omit the A or omit the U and try to confuse you. Like, I mean, I'm talking paintings from centuries ago, modernly altered just to keep out one of those letters. Now, what's really important about these letters and sounds is it basically relates to the three states of consciousness. You know, consciousness, hyperconsciousness, and unconsciousness or whatever. I forget the exact words. The ID, you've read these psychological terms, but basically, to three modes of consciousnesses. So one is responsible for touching these things. You know, you will also notice in Tech Nine's music, who has a lot of spiritual knowledge. I really respect him on one level. Y'all hear him use the first two like the ancient Greeks would. Oh, 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 and that's supposed to be the call if you're allegedly one of his technicians and possessed and stuff. I'd love to make a whole video about that, how we're selling our identities into new archetypes. Not that I disagree with everything he does. On one hand, it's really very empowering. On another, it's unfortunate that nobody understands what they're pledging to. They wave their hands around and they say, in life and death, this is what I am, without really understanding the whole message. And people will, because it's catchy and it feels good. But that's the end of this for now, unless someone can make me much more specific and, you know, ask for bigger needs. So, the Big Bang. Okay. How I view the Big Bang, since there is one more point on here that I can make, and I've already made it up to 40 minutes. How I view the Big Bang is that there is a source of all existence, a creative force that we know as God, a consciousness, that probably didn't even start as consciousness as we know it. But as it developed, this deity, this source, this pool, this wellspring, it became larger and larger and larger. You know, it starts to invent all sorts of things, you know. I mean, look at how far we've come, right? It starts to invent all these little things, but in this spaceless space at first. You know, the space don't even exist yet. In the beginning there was nothing. From nothing came to everything. Okay? So, essentially we're looking at a dot. Okay, now inside that dot is everything that exists. And like a hologram, we now know that to be true about everything. If you examine this, you know, and that's just that dot is part of a whole picture. If you examine it, it will be the entire whole picture. But, so, from out exploded, and here's why I say it did. I think that it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew until it had no choice but to pop in all directions and start pointing. A place to call the moon, a place to call the sun. That's the alchemical symbol for sun, by the way. And it started appointing jobs. You have angels and stars, which I really relate to angels, by the way. I mean, they burn on and burn on and burn on for a long time, asking for nothing but to burn of their own light for you until they burn out and they collapse back into themselves and try again. Now, I'm no fucking scientist, so you can correct that if you want, but I read something and seen a documentary recently about how any time now a star in the nearby galaxy could explode, and that could be it for us. And that they were measured from halfway across the galaxy with the strength of like a tenth of the Big Bang in each one of those explosions, and that they were stars collapsing. I might not fully understand that, but that's how I view a star's purpose regardless, is it's burning for you. Like a million little torches. So we're told we're given the luminaires and all these different things to point signs and times for things to come, which mean that everything, because everything was inside this, the original thought before thoughts occurred, you know, everything. Before it was a full form, it was formless. From the chaos, from Leviathan, etc., etc., everything came. So now it starts to take form, and it takes the form of day, it takes the form of night, it explodes outward into all that is. And we're told, have ye not heard you were gods? I would even let you sit upon my throne as if it were your own, for you are sons of the Most High. The Most High of everything that it is, right? Even in the scientific sense, you're not seeing any arguments here. Why can't we coexist? You see, why can't we learn and appreciate the many languages we've tried to constantly explain the same stuff in? Just because people don't get the whole picture, do you really think they're gonna? That everybody's gonna have it all at once? If they did, you know, what would be the purpose of any of this stuff for half of you, you know? You would take away from the experience having 100% understanding since the beginning. So, now it expands outward and it gives itself different jobs and different ways to continue to expand. It has to take care of itself. And that's how I view God. I view the source, I mean, it is the source. It is the motivational force. It is the glue that holds the stars to the sky. You know, it was the original plan before it planned. And even as it came out and split, giving a piece of its original spirit, he repeats, you know, we call alcohol spirits. We don't really think about that shit. The spirit of joy, mean-spirited people. Let's really get the idea on this. So a little bit of it went into everything, and you have authority over the air, authority over the birds, authority over everything, literally, because you're part of God. You have that in there. And just like that hologram, however, because it's all a part of the whole, each and every one of you, no one's better, no one's worse, people just choose to or not to applaud themselves, to or not to think, but we all have everything that we need. Everything. And I believe that that source, that spirit, in its many form, it visited every major person and religion on the world in a way that they understood. Due to why? Due to their past preconceptions and a knowledge that they can understand, in a shape, in a way that they can understand, and as it visited to them in their own fucking skin color and all this, man took that message and they got a good idea, but because of them being man, because of them not mastering desire and sex and wanting for power and all of this nonsense, the men who held the pens quickly manipulated the information somewhat into their own interpretations, or into a way that, because there wasn't, into a way that they thought they could do the most good. See, every religion thought the same thing, but after visiting by God, after being visited by these different things, that they had the answer. They knew how to go about it. So, despite their choices, they were believing that they were acting in the best interest. Sometimes, like the Vatican, that best interest of their perception might be to not expose these people to their thoughts. People already have a hard enough time, especially when the world's intentionally designed to keep you oppressed and dumb, not knowing what's going on. But since everybody doesn't really think the same or process the same, and we don't want any more wars and craziness, we're going to just take some of this information away. We're going to take the inner flap off the Holy Bible and just give them the Bible instead. We're not going to give them the key to help them be able to read it better that once would have been included. You can actually look into that, by the way. Instead, we're going to give them what we think they can handle, and they can come to the professionals for the rest as we start to control it instead. And I believe that happened to every religion, really. I believe that the same source visited everybody in a way that they can understand, gave them the important stuff. People added extra things onto the book. People took extra things away from it. And I don't even think it was supposed to be a book. Even the ancient shamans were taught to remember. And if a person didn't really apply themselves, they weren't believed to be worthy of a shaman. So I believe that mankind screwed it up. Mankind wanted too much control, or their ideas of what was perfect allowed them to start creating these wars and separations. But I believe that if we all are earnest and get past the prejudices of language, a little bit of these barriers, if we listen to the spirit of discernment, if we meditate, which to me means to stop to think or to pause between thoughts, because we don't stop to take a breath anymore. We're so consumed by this fast-paced world, all the technology, all the games and gizmos, run, rush, work, eat, fuck, sleep, that we really don't stop to think, to smell the roses, to analyze anymore. Half of us don't even reach consciousness. Instead, we're led by impulses, memories, and emotions. So it's very important that we learn that. I hope this was highly informal, because coming from very little vague information to try to help you with this and over the decease of a loved one and some other things that you said you thought the third eye was important to you for, this is what happens when people aren't specific with someone who has autism and they want them to have the fucking world. So I love you. Love all of you. I hope this was beneficial to some of you. This is probably officially my longest video yet, but highly informal and organized. And if you'd like to see more videos or have more specific questions on any of these type of topics, we'll go into symbols and into words of power and some other interesting things, historical artwork some other time. But if you have a specific request, please be sure to leave a comment below. Give a thumbs up and a like if you like this video. Give a subscribe if you'd like to see things like this in the future. I don't make separate channels for all my stuff, so even my music, some goofy, some actually taking the time to be perfect, thrown out there. All of it's mixed in here, so if you like any of those things, support autism awareness, support, I don't want to say self-help, but yeah, self-help. That we might get past the language barrier, that we might learn to love ourselves and each other, and just be that much happier. You see, my videos, my information isn't out of ego, it isn't out of trying to be paid or being better than anybody. As I said, I haven't made any money off of this stuff. It's more about trying to hope people never have to fail where I have, or even fail at all, that they can have whatever they want, whenever they want, in peace, without having to squash other people's rights for the exact same freedom. My name is Kevin Chaos. Peace be with you.